لو كان سلعة تباع لبذلت فيه الأموال العظام أو صعد في السماء لسمت إليه نفوس الكرام.
How to know who to take knowledge from. So we're talking now about seeking knowledge in university. We're talking about now about the metin or the matun, learning the Quran and learning, Arabic language, etc. We say that the metin is somebody you sit with a scholar with, or you sit with somebody as a teacher. So now it leads to the next question, which is, okay, how do you know who to take knowledge from? And I think we talked about this previously in podcasts, but briefly we can spend some time discussing it now, especially since people might be coming over for studies.
I would say, first and foremost, we have to point out the importance of this question, really. Sheikh Muhammad Abdul-Wahhab, rahmatullahi alayh, he considered it to be the fourth principle in the famous book Al-Usul al-Sittah, بيان العلم والعلماء والفقه والفقهاء وبيان من تشبه بهم وليس منهم. He says that from the principles and the foundational concepts, important things in our religion, is to clarify what knowledge is and who scholars are, and what fiqh is and who the fuqaha are, and to clarify those who feign knowledge or feign to be scholars who truly are not scholars. Extremely important, because if you look at it, guidance comes through us through knowledge, through the revealed knowledge in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon the understanding of the companions. That knowledge is in essence what guidance is. So not knowing where to look for and get that guidance, or not even knowing where that guidance is taken from, the source of that guidance, then of course you're set up for misguidance. You're completely set up for misguidance. So just wanted to point out, the whole episode could be about the importance of that principle that Shaykh Muhammad Wahhab mentioned, but we'll suffice with that inshallah ta'ala. Regarding how to know who to take knowledge from, I think that really comes down to one simple answer, which is, what is knowledge? And I think most people, they go wrong there. If you don't know what knowledge is defined as in Islam, then you will never know how to find it. You will never know who has it. You will never know who's feigning it. You will never know, you'll be stuck. So what is knowledge? That's what it comes down to. And knowledge, as defined by Shaykh al-Islam ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, is al-ilmu qala Allahu qala rasuluhu qala as-sahabatu hum ulul irfani. Knowledge is Allah said, the Prophet said, the companions said. They are the ones who know and understand, the companions. So that's what knowledge is. Knowledge is that which is revealed in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or revealed by Allah through the tongue of His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a hadith and His sunnah as a whole, as understood by the righteous companions radiallahu ta'ala anhum and the Salaf al-Salih in general. That's what knowledge is. So now that you know what knowledge is, now you know who has it. The one who has knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah, not just memorization, rather correct understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah upon the standard of the companions, he's the one that has knowledge. And the more someone has of that thing, i.e. understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah upon the way of the companions, the more knowledgeable he is. So I'm going to share a small story, which I'm not sure if I've shared it before. I've done it before in my lessons. I'm not sure if I've shared it on the podcast before, which is, my brother reminded me of this a couple of months ago, a year or two ago, I think. And he said to me, and he reminded me of this particular thing that happened between me and him, which is, we went to a masjid in Sharjah. Once I was visiting them and my mom, and someone got up after Salah and gave a reminder, right? Just like they do here in Saudi sometimes. He got up and he spoke. So I asked my younger brother, I think back then he was maybe 17, I can't remember, really young. So I said to him, this guy, he got up and he gave this lecture, what do you think of him, And I said to him, how do you know if he has knowledge? How do you know that this guy that just got up and spoke to us for 10 minutes, how do you know that he is someone that has knowledge based on his speech? He said, I don't know, tell me. I said to him, how many times did you hear Allah said, قال الله تعالى? None. How many times did you hear him quoting a hadith? None. Okay, quoting some of the companions, none. Then I said to him, that's how you know someone has knowledge or not. If someone sits there and comes with arguments or stories, or just keeps on speaking from himself without backing up his statements with verses from the Quran and a hadith from the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or statements from the companions or illustrious scholars, then you know he doesn't have knowledge. Okay, so that's really where it comes down to. That's the easiest way to know who to take knowledge from. But then obviously there's more to it as well, which is, how do you know if the person is guided? Because it could be that he has extensive knowledge of the Quran and hadith, but he might not be upon the correct way. So that's obviously where the importance of, like Muhammad al-Sirin said, إن هذا العلم دين فانظروا عمن تأخذون دينكم, that indeed this knowledge is religion, so look to who you take your religion from. So that's where the responsibility of making sure that you ask about him and you find out who he took knowledge from. That's another thing as well. Another way to know if someone has knowledge is, where did he take this supposed knowledge from? Because knowledge, like we said, it's like a lineage, you know. Scholars, they pass it on from generation to generation, just like the Prophet Muhammad said, يحمل هذا العلم من كل خلف عدوله, that from every generation the righteous and the upright ones will take it from the previous generations. That's how knowledge is passed on. That's how this irth, which is al-irth al-nabawi, is passed on. The Prophet ﷺ passed it on orally to the companions, who then passed it on to the tabi'een and the At-Tibyān and so on and so forth. That's why the ulama are warathatul anbiya. So that's another thing as well. Asking yourself, who did this person take knowledge from? And when we say who did they take knowledge from, we're not talking about him having visited a sheikh here a couple of times here and there. لا. تتلمذ على يده, that he actually took directly from the scholar, as opposed to just sitting in his general circles a few times, having visited him. لا. And it doesn't even mean, another thing as well, just because a scholar knows someone doesn't mean that that person has knowledge. Sometimes scholars, they praise individuals because of their activity in da'wah, right, as du'at and as scholars to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but that does not equate to that person being knowledgeable or being, if you like, qualified to give fatwa, or to let alone give fatwa, to actually now start refuting other scholars. It does, just because a sheikh knows him and said, I know nothing but good about this individual.
Yeah, it doesn't move him to know some type of level of being an island now,
praise for someone,
because we know him, or we heard him being good, a good individual. It doesn't move him to that level. He's not on that level of a scholar.
Yeah,
even a Taliban. Yeah. Well, like, and this is something that I've noticed, even living in Saudi, we see this a lot, where a scholar might address somebody as sheikh, and it's out of respect. Everybody knows that. It's out of a term of respect, or having some type of good thoughts of that individual. I seen this when I might have been in a Mahad, man, and I think we were with some of the mashayikh. I think me and you were traveling with some mashayikh. I don't want to mention right now. However, I remember in that sitting, I never forget it, because I remember the sheikh said something like, what do you think, yeah, sheikh? And I was driving a car, and I'm just like, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wait, what? And then it dawns on you later in your studies, like, obviously that's not what he doesn't intend that. Nobody hears that and be like, okay, I'm an island. It doesn't work that way. But yeah, so adding on to what you said, I think we addressed this in a previous podcast, but just adding to that, generally speaking, right? I remember Sheikh Saleh Al-Usaymi, Hafidhahullah, he mentioned regarding that statement of Ibn Sirin, talking about that this religion is knowledge, so look who you take your religion from. That generally a person should have, that father, or that sheikh of that qaryah, or that area, that city, that masjid. They should have some type of guidance when you're starting to seek knowledge, and this person directs you to who the people of knowledge are. And another thing he mentioned about that, generally speaking, is the people of knowledge are generally known. Sheikh Saleh Fawzan is known. Sheikh Saleh Usaymi, known. Sheikh Saleh Suhaimi, known. Like, there's certain names, it's known. It's muntashir. Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Uthaymeen, you'll find even taxi drivers mentioning these type of names. when you're in the Mamlaka. These names are known. There's nobody under no rock somewhere not known, generally speaking. Now, you may have people in the West, however, that may not be known to the world, right? So how do we determine that? Well, we look at his area, right? People are benefiting from him. They have not seen, do you see any bid'ah from him? What do the people who are teaching in that area say? And it's very important to mention.
And he's known to have taken knowledge from the scholars as well. That's another important point.
Exactly. That's very important to mention because, like you mentioned, the story of when you were in the masjid with your brother, yeah, you might have, that's the easiest way to determine somebody doesn't have knowledge, right? They don't mention Qala Allah, they don't mention Qala Rasul. Allah said and His Messenger said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the companion said. They don't mention those things. But there are some people who are a bit more, witty, so to say. They might mention these things, but they mention them in a wrong way and they explain it in a wrong way. These are the individuals that it's very important to make sure you look to see, okay, who is encouraging with these individuals, who said this what they're saying. You're not going to find people who are teaching Quran and Sunnah to come with Jadid. This.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like there are so many factors to consider, and I think it's kind of like a funnel, really. The way that when you go shopping on Amazon and you put on filters, it's kind of like filters and a funnel. So, some of the things that I've mentioned, especially the one where I said, okay, listen to if he's quoting the Quran or Sunnah. That is something that it will really disqualify even a lot of well-known names and people who are out there giving da'wah, or are considered to be mashayikh, social media celebrities or influencers or people that are out there who might have millions of followers. Just with this very simple filter, you can filter out if this person is actually a person of knowledge or a motivational speaker. Okay, very simple.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's
when
what
you say person of knowledge, you got to make sure we're clarifying to the people. Person of knowledge of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He might be knowledgeable in tib. He might be knowledgeable when it comes to his different sciences or mathematics, or something he studied. Being some type of life coach with some type of strategy of working out, whatever the case may be, maybe. But when it comes to this ilm right here, which is the most important ilm, the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that right there, you have to have Qala Allah, Qala Rasul.
No, absolutely. And that's one big filter. Then obviously there are a few things, just to summarize, yes, that are absolutely crucial. Number one, if this person has not known to have taken knowledge from a scholar, then forget it. Where did he get it from? Absolutely out of the question. If he hasn't taken knowledge directly from scholars, out of the question. Doesn't matter how convincing he sounds. Then we have, like we said, his knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. And then we need to differentiate between a da'i and a talib ilm or a scholar. I've got nothing against du'at. Du'at, they're doing an amazing job. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنِّي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Okay, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, some wafd would come to him, or some people would come to him, and he would teach them Tawheed and a few things. He would send them back to their country to go and teach their people, and they'll come back with their whole qawm having accepted Islam sometime. So that is an amazing thing, and that is beautiful, but they are not reference points. Okay, they're du'at, they're good for what they do, but when we have questions, when there are contentious issues that are affecting the community, we don't return back to them, let alone going back to such individuals to ask about scholars. La ilaha illallah. How things have turned upside down. You go to the da'i to ask about the scholar.
It does. And I wanted to add something to that, because what we're talking about now, I think, is really general points that a lot of people, if you're following the podcast, we've discussed this and we talked about this at length. We're just going through it really quickly because it was a reoccurring question coming up. But there was something added to it, right? Somebody was asking, how can the common person in the West know who to take his deen from? I think we talked about that generally. But it says we have people who have been given da'wah, but now we see new faces popping up and something along these lines. Let me see if I can find the exact question. I sent it to you, right? This one. This was a question.
It wasn't a question just to you.
But it's upon the same topic that we're discussing right now,
online.
Right?
Yeah.
At any rate, what I want to mention about this topic, right, of somebody being in the West, right, and giving da'wah, and maybe he's a student who's been studying 5 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years. he goes back to the States, he goes back to the West, whatever the case may be. It's important to, when that person's being asked about in that particular area, like you mentioned, knowledge is qala Allah, qala Rasul. Allah said and His Messenger said. Be very careful when you're asking people about this individual if they have this qala Allah, qala Rasul. Because you see sometimes there is a bit of, I would say, Allah knows best, maybe hasad, maybe a bit of, okay, I don't see him with this particular group. I don't see him, moving with this particular circle. And that doesn't necessarily disqualify you from being someone who can take knowledge from. So what I'm trying to get at is the fact that make sure if somebody's talking about somebody, right, a new student or not a new student, somebody who's been giving da'wah, make sure they're talking about that individual with true knowledge. Qala Allah, qala Rasul. He said this. Allah says this. The messenger said this. We don't take knowledge from that person. He does this. He's with this people, and we know he says this, and he said this, and here's his kalam here. Allah said this. His messenger said this. The Sahaba were like this. The Salaf were like this, and we don't take from that. Don't sit here and say, things that don't have no type of basis, and it's really, puffed up hit pieces, right? To make it seem like it's something big, but it's not.
I think I found the question. So you want me to read it? Because that will give better context to your answer. The questioner, what I was asking somewhere on Twitter, Assalamu alaikum, how can the common person in the USA know who to take his deen from? We know our elders, they have been around for decades now, but there are so many new faces and names popping up now.
Question, but the last part, there are so many new faces and names popping up now. People are confused and forming teams. There is no teams with Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. There is no teams. There is no his here, his there. And Ahl Sunnah is one. Okay, they're one. Some people like to make it in maybe into a hizb, knowingly or unknowingly, like we're against these opposing people or they're not with these particular people. But Ahl Sunnah, if you're speaking truth, if you're calling to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, you're calling to the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam upon knowledge, upon knowledge, haqqan, yani, then there's no parties. It's one. We're all one. Yani, ummah wahida.
I think you hit the nail on the head, which is that, going back to the questioner's question, right? He says that, okay, how do we know who to take knowledge from, right? We know our elders that we've known for decades. There's many new faces popping up. Okay, Akhil Karim, there's nothing stopping you from sticking to that which you know. Nothing mushkila, right? But these new faces that are popping up, right? If there are people that know them to be people upon the Sunnah and they've done their homework and they see that they are suitable to be taken knowledge from based on having asked the scholars or knowing that they took from scholars or the like, why should that bother you and why should that cause teams or to have different teams? Yani, that's what I don't understand, which is, okay, you stick with those that you know, right? And then you have these new faces popping up. Some people are taking knowledge from them. Yes, if they've done their homework, then alhamdulillah, it's good for them. There's no need. It shouldn't be like, okay, if you're not taking knowledge from those people that I'm taking knowledge from, then me and you are not on the same team. Or something like that. You know what I mean? It's subhanAllah, it's crazy. And it's a lot of new faces popping up is a good thing. It's a good thing. I mean, if that means that a lot of new students are graduating, a lot of people are entering to the fray of da'wah and calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and benefiting the people as long as they're upon the sunnah, like I said, and they talk with knowledge, that's an amazing thing. Alhamdulillah, that's good news. It's a great thing.